The end of Dexter. New blood left fans in shock. Son pulling the trigger on his father. A dark legacy cut short in a snowy small town. A question that refuses to die. Is this really the end of Dexter Morgan? Or was it just the beginning of something even darker? Season 2 whispers through every fan forum, every theory thread, and every late-night discussion, and the possibilities are more chilling than any crime scene Dexter ever left behind. Dexter Morgan has always lived. In the space between two worlds, the mask of normal life and the shadow of his dark passenger. For 8 seasons in the original Dexter series, we followed him as he struggled to balance these two sides: the caring brother, the loving father, and the cold-blooded vigilante killer. The series finale of the original show left fans divided, with Dexter faking his death and becoming a lumberjack, a quiet life far away from Miami. For years, people debated whether this was the ending such a complex character deserved. Then came Dexter. New blood, a revival that promised answers, closure, and maybe even redemption. We meet Dexter, living under a new identity, Jim Lindsay, in the snowy town of Iron Lake. He tries to bury the monster within him, living a life of routine, discipline, and emotional distance. But as we know, darkness never really dies, it only hides. Slowly, his mask slips. A murder brings him back into the cycle, and the dark passenger begins to whisper again. The revival isn't just about Dexter, though. It's about Harrison, the son he abandoned years ago. Harrison returns. As a teenager, carrying not just the trauma of being left behind, but also the possibility that his father's darkness may live inside him too. This father and son dynamic becomes the heart of the story. It's not just about killings or cover-ups. It's about inheritance. Can darkness be passed down like eye color or a family name? By the finale, this question explodes in a way no one expected. Dexter, once so careful and calculating, finds himself exposed. Angela, the town's police chief and Dexter's girlfriend, discovers his secret. The walls close in, and suddenly Dexter isn't the hunter anymore, he's the hunted. His crimes catch up with him, and the truth can't be hidden in the snow. But the real shock comes when Harrison confronts his father. This isn't a son blindly following in his father's bloody footsteps. This is a young man making a choice shaped by trauma, love, and betrayal. Harrison points a gun at Dexter, and in those final moments, we see something terrifying. Dexter doesn't fight back, almost as if he believes this is the only way the cycle can end. And then, with one gunshot, the story of Dexter Morgan comes to a brutal close, or so it seems. This ending shook fans for 2 reasons. First, it felt final. The show made us watch Dexter die at the hands of his own son, making it clear that his darkness had consequences that couldn't be escaped. But second, it felt unfinished. Harrison driving away into the night, confused, angry, and carrying both trauma and potential, opened a new door. Was this the birth of a new story? Could Harrison be the one to carry the torch, whether as a hero who rejects his father's path, or as a new kind of monster shaped by it? The legacy of Dexter isn't just blood and bodies. It's a story about human nature, about whether people can escape who they truly are. Fans can't stop asking, did Dexter die a monster or a father? Did Harrison pull the trigger to save himself or to prevent a greater evil? And most importantly, is this really the end? This is why Season 2 speculation has spread like wildfire. Because endings like this don't feel like endings at all. They feel like beginnings. Asterisk. The truth is, for a show like Dexter, silence speaks louder than words. The network hasn't drowned us with announcements or spoiled what's to come. They've given us just enough to keep us restless, just enough to keep theories alive. And that's what makes this potential Season 2 so fascinating. It exists in the space between fact and speculation, a limbo perfectly suited for Dexter Morgan's world. So what do we actually know? First, the revival wasn't just a one-off experiment. Showtime saw that Dexter, New Blood, wasn't just a return, it was a resurrection of fan interest. The show broke streaming records for the network, becoming its most-watched series ever. Numbers like that don't just fade away. Studios notice. Executives notice. And when they notice, conversations begin. That means behind closed doors. Michael C. Hall, the man who is Dexter, has been surprisingly open in interviews. But here's where things get interesting. He's never ruled out appearing. Again, Hall himself said that in the world of Dexter, never say never. That kind of statement isn't just casual. It's a breadcrumb, a hint that the door isn't locked, only slightly closed. We also know about Clyde Phillips, the showrunner who returned for New Blood. Phillips has been vocal about the fact that the revival wasn't the end of the road. He teased the possibility of expanding the universe, saying that Harrison's story could easily become the new focus. He described it as Dexter's legacy continuing in surprising ways, coming from the man who holds the keys to this world that's not just idle chatter, that's intention. And let's not forget the network itself. Showtime is now under the Paramount umbrella, and with the streaming wars raging, legacy IPs, shows with built-in fan bases, are worth more than ever. Think about it. Why let one of their biggest hits of the last decade fade into silence, when it can be reborn, reshaped, and extended into something new? From a business perspective, the odds of Season 2, or a spin-off continuation, are higher than most fans realize. But here's the part that makes it unique. When we say Season 2, we might not be talking about a traditional continuation. We might be talking about something stranger, something that bends the rules. Imagine this. Not just Harrison's story, but side stories that dig deeper into the mythology of Dexter. Flashbacks that let Dexter's voice still guide us, even from beyond the grave. Episodes that follow Angela as she tries to reconcile justice with what she knows. Or even a reimagining of the Dark Passenger itself, no longer tied to Dexter, but whispering to a new generation. So officially, we know the appetite is there. We know the actors and creators haven't closed the door. We know the network has a financial reason to move forward. And most importantly, we know that this world, the world of Dexter Morgan, refuses to stay buried. That's why fans feel restless, because the pieces are all there. They just haven't been assembled yet. When a show ends cleanly, speculation dies with it. The silence that follows isn't closure, it's suspense. And suspense, as we know, is Dexter's favorite playground. So while the official word may be limited, the truth is simple. Dexter Resurrection Season 2 isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how. It's what we imagine. Theories are where fans become detectives, piecing together hints, interviews, and the very DNA of the story. And with Dexter Resurrection Season 2, the theories are darker, bolder, and stranger than ever. Let's step into the shadows and explore. The possibilities? It sounds impossible, right? We watched the bullet, we saw the blood, we heard Harrison pull the trigger. But Dexter has faked his death before, and the idea of him cheating death once again has fueled countless discussions online. Could he have survived, hidden by Angela, or perhaps even taken into custody in secret? Some fans believe the death was staged to free Dexter from the mess in Iron Lake, setting up his reemergence later. Another version of this theory is less physical and more psychological. Dexter doesn't return as a living man, but as a voice, a ghost, a hallucination. Just as Deb haunted Dexter throughout New Blood, what if Dexter becomes Harrison's dark passenger, spectral guide who whispers in Harrison's ear, pulling him toward darkness or warning him against it? Keeps Michael C. Hall present in the story without undoing the emotional weight of his death. This is the most popular theory. Harrison driving off into the night at the end of New Blood wasn't an ending, it was an opening act. Many believe Season 2 will explore Harrison wrestling with the inheritance of his father's darkness. He has the instincts, the trauma, and the rage. But does he have the code? Dexter lived by Harry's code, kill only those who deserve it. Harrison, however, was never properly trained. Without guidance, could he spiral into something messier, more chaotic? Or could he refine his own version of the code, one that reflects both rebellion and loyalty to the father he killed? This storyline would be the ultimate test. Is Harrison destined to break the cycle, or doomed to continue it? Angela Bishop. Iron Lake's police chief ended New Blood with knowledge most of the world doesn't have. She knows who Dexter really was. Imagine her role in Season 2. She could become Harrison's hunter, tracking him down before his father's legacy consumes him, or in a surprising twist. She could protect him, covering up Dexter's crimes to give Harrison a chance at a life free from suspicion. But protecting Harrison wouldn't come without cost. Angela is haunted by the truth. Every case she works on, every crime she sees, might remind her of the man she once loved and the monster he really was. Fans speculate Angela could become the moral compass of the show, or its ultimate antagonist. Depending on how Harrison's story unfolds, Dexter's world has always been haunted by the dead. Rita, Deb, Trinity, Harry. These characters may be gone. Their presence lingers like a stain. Many fans believe Season 2 could embrace this ghostly element even further. Imagine Harrison plagued not only by Dexter's voice, but by visions of his Aunt Deb, urging him to make better choices. Or a horrifying twist where Harrison's nightmares are filled with Trinity, the killer who defines so much of Dexter's past. Now echoing in the son's future, this wouldn't just be fan service. It would be thematic. Harrison, surrounded by voices of the dead, would represent the idea that he isn't just carrying Dexter's blood, he's carrying the weight of every decision. Every kill and every ghost Dexter left behind. What if Season 2 doesn't follow Harrison alone? Some fans theorize a larger expansion, a Dexter universe, where the dark passenger isn't unique to Dexter or Harrison. Maybe the code or the urge to kill emerges in others. Imagine an anthology-style continuation where Harrison's story is only one part of a wider exploration of morality, justice, and the monsters people hide inside. This theory plays into the title many are using, Dexter Resurrection. Resurrection doesn't always mean one man returning. It can mean the idea of Dexter rising again in many forms. A new wave of killers, a new chapter in the mythology, a new question about whether evil ever really dies. The beauty of these theories isn't in whether they're true, it's in what they reveal. Fans aren't ready to let Dexter go. They want more. More answers, more darkness, more conflict between father and son, justice and crime, love and monstrosity. And the truth is, the best theory may be the simplest one. Season 2 isn't about erasing what happened in New Blood. It's about embracing it. Harrison pulling the trigger wasn't the end of the story. It was the spark that lit a new one. And in that spark, there are endless directions the show could take. So which theory feels most likely? The survival of Dexter, the rise of Harrison, the ghosts of the past haunting the future, or something we can't even predict? That's the thrill of speculation. Every fan becomes part of the story, and in Dexter's world, the story is never as dead as it seems. Asterix, the most grounded prediction, is that Season 2 will belong to Harrison. Everything points to it. The finale didn't just close Dexter's story. It passed the knife, the code, and the burden of darkness onto Harrison. But here's the question. How will he carry it? One path shows Harrison as a tragic mirror of his father, a young man driven by rage, learning to stalk and kill, but without the discipline that made Dexter survive for so long. This version of Harrison is raw, messy, and unpredictable, the kind of killer who doesn't always follow the code, which makes him more dangerous than Dexter ever was. Another path, however, paints him as a rebel, someone who tries to bury the code, who fights against the whispers of the dark passenger, but no fight is ever perfect. Sooner or later, the darkness might win. Imagine the tension. A boy trying to be good, but haunted by the blood in his veins. This would make Harrison's story not just a continuation, but a tragedy in the making. If Harrison's story is the body of Season 2, then Dexter's ghost could be its voice. Literally. Many predictions suggest Michael C. Hall won't be gone completely. Instead, Dexter could return as the inner voice in Harrison's head, a spectral father, sometimes guiding, sometimes corrupting, always watching. This doesn't undo his death. Instead, it transforms it. Dexter would become immortal, not as a man, but as an idea, a legacy that Harrison can't escape. This version would keep fans connected to the character they love, while also forcing Harrison into constant conflict. Is he listening to wisdom? or to a ghost who only wants him to repeat the same mistakes. Some predictions stretch even further. They imagine Season 2 broadening the universe, not just Harrison in the spotlight, but new killers, new codes, and new hunters. Angela could play a central role, either hunting Harrison or struggling with whether to protect him. Old faces like Deb or even Trinity could return as psychological phantoms. Twisting Harrison's choices, this kind of expansion would turn Dexter Resurrection into more than a sequel. It would be a mythology, a saga about what happens when darkness is inherited, passed down like a curse through bloodlines, communities, or even cultures. When could it arrive? Now comes the practical side. Fans wonder when Showtime and Paramount decide to move forward. Production timelines suggest we wouldn't see a new season immediately. Writing, casting, and filming could easily stretch over a year. That means the earliest realistic release would be late next year, with streaming exclusivity likely tied to Showtime or Paramount Plus. But here's the real twist. Sometimes, delays make stories stronger. The longer the silence, the more anticipation grows. And anticipation is exactly what fuels a show like Dexter. Waiting isn't a weakness here. It's part of the hunt. And now we return to the question that has haunted fans since that final gunshot in Iron Lake. Was that really the end? If you look closely, the answer is hidden in plain sight. Dexter's story has always been about cycles. Violence creating more violence. Secrets leading to darker secrets. Fathers shaping sons, whether they want to or not. The bullet that ended. Dexter didn't end the cycle. It passed it on. That's why the best prediction for Season 2 isn't just about plot lines or characters. It's about inevitability. Darkness doesn't die. It waits. It adapts. It resurfaces in new forms. And in Dexter Resurrection, that darkness could return louder, bolder, and more complex than ever. So let's leave with this thought. Harrison may have pulled the trigger, but the story didn't end there. The dark passenger doesn't disappear with a single shot. It lives on, waiting in the silence, whispering to the next chapter. The only question is, when we hear that whisper again, will it sound like Dexter? Or will it sound like something even worse?